let me go through it because I think it might be interesting for some of you who are, like to work out and stuff like that. Because we often, we have different injuries that can happen. Hopefully it's not going to be this one or that. I know, because that's a little bit of a problem. But this one is much more common, and most of us end up doing that one. And that's also an injury, right?
I'm actually doing that now.
Huh?
I'm actually doing the X-ray one right now.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. That's what I'm standing up, trying to, citizen here. So, but what I want to, with that, what is important to me is that a group of people work out. So let's say I go to 24-hour fitness or we go to the Y, and we just get people that start the working out process. What is important for them? They don't necessarily have knowledge. So when you look at the basic functioning of a movement apparatus, which is where we've been going much more into detail, I look at functionally, basically bones joined together to form a skeleton. Ligaments are like rubber bands that are around joints that keep the bones together, and then muscles attached to bones to move them around. And when they contract, that means we move around, or we get us postural stability, like sitting up straight and stuff like that. And then the brain talks to everybody to make sure everything is controlled and coordinated. And those are sort of the four fundamental elements where if I go into an injury, into a trauma or whatever it is, one of those things are going to be messed up. And so it could be that the bone gets stuck out of place. It could be a bone breaks. Now that's pretty clear most of the time. It could be that a ligament, a rubber band overstretches or snaps. Or it could be that muscles tighten that then protect the injured areas when we overstretch them, or they tear, or sometimes they inhibit when we overload them again because it hurts. And so like if you have a twisted ankle and the muscles on the outside are really sore, they sort of shut off neurologically so the body can still walk and it doesn't hurt. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then from there, we can kind of go into a situation that, once you're post, let's say 70s, so you guys have to wait a long time until you get there, right? But if we have injuries and we get altered joint motions with that, we get muscle dysfunction with that, so some muscles take over, substitute for other muscles, so we can combat biomechanics. So for example, let's say if the glute on one side, let's say the glute here doesn't fire as nicely anymore, the underneath muscles, for example, have to fire much harder to get that motion execution work. And so when we look at muscles, we often get some muscles that get wimpy and weak. They're not weak because you don't work them out. They just don't talk to the brain. And other muscles get really tight and really knotted. And of course, those are the ones we feel. They're trigger points. We always want us to have people massage the upper back and stuff like that. But what's interesting is we always, in a motion, we have one muscle that does one motion, they call that an agonist, and then another muscle that does the opposite motion, they call that an antagonist. And so, interestingly, if one muscle is wimpy, the other muscle automatically neurologically tightens up. Or if one muscle is tight, the other one also is more wimpy. So it goes both ways. And so we can find what I often do, and what I think medicine is having a really hard time with doing, is trying to go and find out in these areas of bone stuck out of place, ligament snapped, or muscles not functioning properly, where is a problem when somebody, for example, somebody with back pain or with foot pain or with ankle pain, whatever it is, or neck, a lot of neck pain. And then, because you can't solve that with a pill, you can numb the thing with a pill, but if you keep it imbalance in the spine for a long time, you're going to get degeneration, which is these are discs in between the vertebrae. These look nice and fine. These don't look good at all. And so that accelerates the aging process, unfortunately, when the biomechanical movement apparatus doesn't work properly. And
I
so
have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
What causes a knotted muscle?
A knotted muscle is when the muscle is tight.
Oh.
Like, often the upper back is tight. So those are the muscles, when you squeeze them, it feels good.
Okay.
Can that happen if you exercise without stretching? Could that be possible?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, yeah, absolutely. you can absolutely have a response that the muscle tightens up after you exercise it, and don't stretch it or don't hydrate it properly either.
Okay.
So then what I often go when I think about the medical system, because I'm part of the medical system, I look at the cost of pain, and it's big, because when you just look at the medical cost in 2015, the GDP is almost 18%, but then look at the wages, that's almost 40% of wages goes to medical. And often we don't see that because it's behind our paycheck, because we get the insurance from the employer. And so when we look at the movement apparatus, chronic pain is the biggest cost that we have, but we treat it pretty poorly when we look at maybe not the chronic pain which is giving us pain pill, but where we can do something about it in the beginning stages of a problem. And a lot of that has to do with knowledge. And so that's where I pick up with these exercise things, because what we have is we have quantifiable tests that we can have normative data to, that we can do at home by ourselves, so with a friend or partner, and see how do we perform with that, and then say, hey, I should pay a little bit of attention to that part of my movement apparatus so I'm not, having an injury from it. And the first out of these, I have 12 tests. I'm just going to talk briefly about them, and then you guys can download that PDF, and I actually have it, and do it if you like to do it, or just food for thought. But first test, what's very important is a one-legged balance test, because the brain needs positional data sent from the feet to help us with our agility. When we are young and everything works, we get input from the feet, where we are in space, from the eyesight, where we are in space, and for the inner ear, the balancing apparatus in the inner ear, the vestibular apparatus, that tells us how balanced we are. But as we get older, that gets harder. And one of the senses that diminishes is the positional data sense from the feet and from the ankles. And you'd be surprised how many people in their 40s can't stand straight like that. And so the first test that I often describe people to do is, how long can I balance on one leg? And so you could do that. You have your phone. You can just stopwatch you. How long can you stand on one leg with the eyes open? And then if you got 30 seconds, you're fine. And then you close your eyes and you do the same thing. Make sure you don't fall over. But then here's a normative data for people in a different age group. I should say years, but I didn't. And then this is the eyes open and then the eyes closed normative data. So you can see how fast the ability diminishes as we get into our 60s. And if you're within that group, you're cool. If you're outside of that group, you go, oh, maybe I should do a few balancing exercises. And like stand on a thing that you have to balance. Like I stand on my work desk a lot and I try to balance some, because if I should sit, my back hurts. Or these balance pads are really interesting. I often prescribe them to the patients. They're like $25 on Amazon or so. They're not expensive. So that's the first thing I do. Then the second test is a squat test. That's a bit tougher for a lot of us. That evaluates the anti-gravity muscles which hold us upright. So one of the things that if we cannot squat, we cannot stand, we're screwed. So that's a very important function of our body, because as we get older particularly. And so it's good to check that out, how it is going for us. And what we do is we stand feet shoulder width apart and squat until the knees are horizontal, all the way down. And if your knees hurt, you check that out. But if they don't hurt, you keep going. And then stand back. Each rep should be 2 to 3 seconds. Go to 50. If you got 50, you're cool. That's a lot, though, for a lot of us. If you're not got 50, here's the normative data. This is the guys, they're the ladies. And so this is the age groups. And if you're, and see, this is also, oops. So if you're not at that level, do some squats, or that would be a good thing to do, and get stronger in these elements, because all of that will help the whole chain of movement to be strong and not prone to injury when you put some different loads on it, like when you go to a workout class or something like that.
But just a reminder that I mean, at the beginning, you're not gonna be able to do not even 10. It depends, but maybe.
Oh yeah, but then you got something to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you give yourself a couple of weeks, 2-3 times a week, do a few sets. You figure out that data from internet or so, how much would be good. And then you check again in a couple of weeks, you'd be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
But that way you got your own. That's why it's nice. That's why I like the normative data, because we can do our own thing unless you're injured. It's not like you got to pay somebody to do that test on you and tell you that you need to work out on this and that. It's really simple. Just the challenge is, of course, if you're hurting, now you can text me and we'll talk about it. Or, That's also, of course, a very good exercise. I don't know, I still got that in there. And then the side bridge, that's another one that evaluates core muscles that provide a stable foundation for our arm and leg movement. So if this is good, strong, everything coming out of the arms or legs is stable. If this is wimpy, when I move and my wrist is strong, I can move around. When I whip it, like wobbles all around. Everything gets so much more movement. So all the joints get so much more movement, they get injured much faster. So that's why that's an important test. So what you do is you push your trunk horizontal on your side while you're resting on the elbow and keep the upper foot in front. Don't keep the feet. He keeps the feet on top of one another. I keep the upper foot in front of it. And then, then you see how long you can hold it up. Well, like that with the elbow. But on the feet and elbows. See how long you can hold it up without sagging. You got to be honest with yourself. And ladies, 75 seconds. Guys, 95 seconds. That's the normative data. Otherwise, depends if you want or not, but it would be a good thing. Before we think we're going to run a marathon, we'll do a few of those things. Or we go more advanced. This is weights. This is not easy at all, by the way. Just tried a few of those.
Nope, it's so hard. I tried. I couldn't even last for 20 seconds.
I know. Hey, you're lucky. Last semester I did it with all the classmates, with everybody, each other.
Oh, God.
I know, right? And then the next one is a straight leg raiser. That one checks the hammies, the hamstrings in the back. See these muscles back here. So what you do is you have a partner, or if you don't have a partner, you just take a towel and see how far you can go without. What you really want to look at is to make sure the hip doesn't move as you bring the leg up. So when you bring the leg up, if the knee buckles or the hip sort of moves up, then that's where you want to be. And that's, hip and pelvis move. So that's description. And if you reach 90 degrees, you're cool. You don't need, I know that seems, well, it is kind of a lot, but it is important, because otherwise, see, this is an interesting picture, because you see the line, all the muscle connections go up and then into the back. So if this is all tight, this is going to be tight. They all pull on each other. So there's some theories in massage training. I don't know if you have that, Kirsty, but there's some theory that muscles are not individual things. So all these separating the hamstrings from the gastroc, in some ways that's almost foolish, because when you look at motion, they're all connected the way they move the body around.
Yeah, like a good technique for like muscle separation is my teacher used to call it stripping.
Yes.
You've heard of that? Yeah, that one works really good for all that.
They try to separate the different muscles from all that, and that comes originally from Ida Rolf. Have you ever heard of Rolfing?
Yeah, I have. I heard that one's pretty brutal.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. That's some short Austrian lady who whipped everybody in shape, but made a huge quantum leap in body work.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting how much power that lady had. I heard some interviews with her son. Anyway, so that's that. If you have do stuff like that, just lay on feet up, good yoga pose. Then you can say you're doing yoga. See.
Mm.
So that something like that helps the hammies just relax more, and you can also do it, by just bending down. But I don't know if you could do like that. I can't do like that. And then the ankle is also important, and that needs to be flexible. So the lower elements, the gastrocnemius and the soleus, we just talked about them. And the interesting thing there, though, is you remember the gastrocnemius goes up above the knee slightly, and the soleus starts in the back of the lower calf or the calf. And so these muscles, you almost got to check them both. So one of them, you stretch like that, and if you know, it's a little hard to see the angle, but this is the exact angle. I put that in there, and it's on the handout that I PDF. God, I can't believe I did the wrong PDF on that, but it'll go up in a minute. And so if your knee's straight, that tests the gastrocnemius, and if you bend your knee, then it tests the soleus down in here. And so you should be able to get a little more give if you bend the knee. If this is below like this level, then there's not enough give in this part that then everything else gets crampy. So that's why that's important. Stretches, look, it's easy. You wait for something, you just stretch your fascia, put it over a bigger, you know, over a door step or something like that. A lot of that is easy. See, that's how you could see that's tight. You see the knees going out more than here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that helps. When that's not tight, it's much better by the mechanics, much less injury prone. This, if you do this with a lot of weight, that's gonna mess up the knee. Olympic weightlifting or so. And then we get into sit-ups. Another good topic, probably, right? I'm always worried about those. But a repetitive sit-up test. So what you want to do with that, of course, we understand that that's very important for our stomach muscles. But how you want to test it is you want to lay face up, bend your knees, and have someone hold the ankles down or anchor them under something. And then you want to reach your arms out towards your knees and sit-ups by lifting up the chest and pressing so you lift up the chest and press the abdomen down. That's always a crucial one. Push that belly into the table. I forgot that. I haven't done it for so long, and then all of a sudden it clicked. It was much easier. But anyway, you want to lift the chest up. Don't just reach the arms out. Keep the shoulder blades back. And then you want to go until you feel your palms reach the knees. The palm reach the knees, you go back down. And then you test how many can you do. And then this is the normative data. Well, if you're below 54. But they started between 35 and 54. So that should be pretty good. And so, of course, if you're not got enough of those stomach muscle-y things that are strong, we want to work on that because that's a very important one too. And often in our modern lifestyle, we got these front stomach muscles that are wimpy. And when I say wimpies, they don't engage. You know, often, yeah, they're not worked out, but often it's also an engaging thing. So we consciously want to do some engagement by doing a few of those exercises, and just the brain thinking about it will work with it. And then the reason why that's important is because if it's not balanced, the front is not strong enough, the back muscles tighten up more or more frequently. Does that make sense? Little bit?
Yeah.
And then look, if you want to go to town, there's a lot of exercises that I put there. But you don't have to go through all of them. They're in the handout. That I know I can't give you in paper, but I can give you in electronic format. Then the other one is lowering the leg test. That's another one that's interesting. And what you do is you bring your knee up vertically and then you straighten your leg out. So you bend your knee and then bring it out, bring the legs out. And then you lower, well, then you flatten the back. Make sure you put a hand behind the back, make sure it's flat. And then you lower the leg down and check when does the back go, when you make space in the back, when does it arch up? And that will help you really understand the strength of these muscles. And you want to have it be about 65 degrees. So that's about 60 degrees. So around here. That's good enough, I'm sure. And so that's the lowering leg test that helps you understand your ab muscles. And there is some stuff you could do for that. Just simply holding that, that's good exercise. At least for me. I don't know. I've been sitting here all 2 days and working this darn test. I'm always all right, and then a core, there's more exercises that are good. Hip flexors. The deep hip flexors are often tight, contributing to pain and faulty movement patterns. So then again, that's these muscles. We talked about the iliopsoas just today. So if these are tight because we sit all day, that can be messed up because we're not able to straighten out the leg properly. All right, so the whole thing is the chain is not moving through the whole range of motion. So what you can do is you can lay face up with your hips over the edge of a bench or a firm bed, and bring it further down than in the picture, so you can drop it down. You want to drop that thigh down as much as you can. Then you bring knee to the chest and hold one point close to the chest and straighten out the other one and lay it over the bench. And make sure that the knee doesn't roll out, but does your lower knee go horizontal, like in here, or does it bend up a little bit? If it bends up a little bit, we got to do some stretching. Some salutations right there. So a little bit of yoga or something like that to help that muscle. That gives a lot of back pain. That is like way missed when I work on people. You always want to look in the front. So that's a good one for the sore ass, so you don't get a sore ass. And then another one that's good is the static back endurance and the repetitive arch test. So that helps us understand how strong the back muscles are, and of course, again, the core, how stable the core is. And so what you want to do is you want to lay face down, have the hips be at the edge, something stabilizing the back. Yeah, make sure they don't fall down. And then you want to hold it horizontal and see how long you can hold it. And here are the normative datas for the guys and the ladies. And then after that, you want to go up and down. You want to go up and down. In the book, there should be a picture that's a little better than that. But you want to go up and down, and you want to see how many of those up and downs can you do. And here is the normative data. And then that shows you, of course, how strong is my back. And again, we got more exercises on pictures all over the place that you can choose from, and then redo that in 2 weeks and see how is it going. Is that any better or not? I mean, you don't have to do it, but just before you go play soccer after you haven't done that, or football after you haven't done it for a few years. And then the knee flexion test, that's another one. That's the quadricep muscles. And so that's not too difficult. You can lay face down, you can bend your knee, and you just make sure when the hip starts bending, that's your angle on the knee joint. And that should be about 32 degrees or more, no less. And here, since 32 degrees is very specific, this is 32 degrees, and I have it on the handout. And then, if it's not 32 degrees, you start doing stuff like that. No, don't go that strong. Just do this. This is really good one, actually. This is a really good one because it stretches this, and it stretches the iliopsoas too. I like this. I know, I do these handouts for myself, so I get ideas. And then, two more. Neck. We haven't done neck. The most important problem with neck is the front muscles. So often the front flexors, the ones that bring the neck down, are inhibited, and we're having a chicken neck. We're all forward because these deep ones are weak. They're not strong. So that's very, very important. So what we can do to test is we can lay face up and raise both the forehead and the chin an inch off the table. Don't just raise the forehead, and then have a friend or a partner or even yourself put the fingers between the bed or the floor and the head, and make sure you don't lift the head further off or drop it down, and hold it in this position like that. The chin up and forehead up, and hold it. So these deep muscles have to contract. And so and then see how long you can hold it, and there's a normative data. But then that helps you understand this deep muscle integrity. And if you've had whiplash from a car accident or so, very likely that these muscles got injured at some point. The other thing that you can do is do the stretches. A lot of times these muscles here are tight, and we're like rounded forward shoulders, which is strong and up. I like to squeeze my shoulder blades together in the back, but also bring the chin in and sort of have good posture that way. And I like this visual because you could see this from a Swiss guy, and you can see how you can visualize 3 wheels on the side of the body, and they should be all on top of one another. But if the middle one goes back, you're slouching down, everything gets messed up. If you do this, everything is messed up. Your head is forward, your low back is flat and gets all tortured. You want to be standing upright and bring this middle wheel back in and bring the shoulders back. And this is
Didn't you say that affected your oxygen to your brain at one point? It was something like that at the beginning of the school year.
You're good. You remember that? Yes, it does. There is a guy from Boston who's a cardiac surgeon And he was talking about that, have even visual seen it in surgical patients when they were knocked out, how their head was laying, depending on how the blood flow to the brain was.
Yeah.
Very crucial. Yeah, and you can, that's why when I studied for a long time, there is this moment. It's not me not getting it. It's I didn't drink some water and I haven't been sitting upright for a few hours, and that's why I can't handle it no more. So you always got to keep that in mind.
Okay, so real quick, so the lady that's laying down with her hand behind her head, because you know how her neck is like this, is it supposed to be like that, or are you just showing the posture?
Oh, this?
Yeah.
That's somebody else's hand to test that she doesn't drop her head down. How long can you hold it up?
Okay.
So when you do the test, you want to lay there with the head a little bit up. But if you don't have anybody monitoring, or you don't monitor it with your own hand, you don't know this if you lift it up a little more. Because that's another way of coping. You can lift it up a little more. It's easier to hold it that way. You want to hold it right at that inch level. Don't go down or don't go up. And then see how long can you hold it. And then here's your normative data. 30 seconds for the ladies and 85 for the guys. Sorry, guys.
All right, I'll try it. Cool. Thank you.
That's the football neck thing, And then, at the exercise, I gave you the posture exercises, actually. In posture handout, the last couple pages, that stuff you could do if those muscles are not good. So you can bring the chin in and hold it up and stuff like that. All right, so that's the second, and then the last one, 3-minute step test. So what you do with that is exercise is essential to burn calories and move weights to increase muscle strength. We all know that, right? But blah blah blah. But it's good. Cardiovascular is important because the breathing deeper, the oxygen gets to the blood easier, and then the heart is more efficient to bring the oxygen to the cells, and there we make ATP. So that's why it is important. And you can check your cardio, and I haven't done it in a while. I should do it by getting 2 regular steps, a 12-inch height thing, and you step up, go. What is it? Up right, up left, down right, down left. So you just take a step up and stand there and then go back down. And you do that in a beat of 96 per minute. So you get a metronome and an app on the phone or something and put 96 beats. And each beat is 1 step. And then you do that for 3 minutes. And you see how, what your pulse is afterwards. So after that, you go take your pulse immediately out for a minute. And here's the normative data of how your cardio is: excellent, good, average, poor. Age group up here. So that's the guys, that's the ladies. And so the lower your heart rate after that step test is, the more the heart is strong. The faster the heart rate is, the flimsier the heart pump is, and that muscle has been a little bit neglected. And I'm 50 now, so I tell you, if I don't work out, I feel the difference. It's very interesting, So that just gives you a measure where well you are. But the other thing is this: if your beat is if you have tachycardia and you have 100 beats per minute at rest, don't do it. Just be careful and talk to a health professional. So take your pulse before you do it and just feel it. You're gonna take your pulse by the wrist, right where the crease is, right by the thumb. You just put your fingers there, and you hope you feel something, and you move it around a little bit until you feel something. Once you've done the 3-minute test, you can feel it. I have no problem with that, I think. So, and if you are a little wimpy, then there is why I want to do my stamina. That's in the book. So there's a lot of good stuff comes out of it. And then there is ways to do it. Oops. Well, you don't need to see that. So, how much activity I need? That's another thing that you can pick up on the internet. About 150 minutes of, cardio stuff a week, and about 2 days a week of some weight training. We get away with that as we're younger. As we get older, the weight training becomes more important. But that could be dancing. That could be hiking. It could be swimming. It doesn't have to be going on a treadmill if you don't like a treadmill. And that's not that much time. And then after 2 weeks, I want you to take, if you do it, take it again and see how you perform. And I have a feeling it's much easier than that.
Professor?
Yes, sir.
I've been hearing that running on a treadmill isn't exactly the best way to do cardio, just because I hear that I guess your movements aren't natural, so you're hitting the treadmill hard on your knees. Is that?
Yeah, I Well, that's a good point. I don't know. I mean, I think running in itself is kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of visualize it. If I take both feet off the ground and come down on one knee, that's a lot of freaking weight on one knee.
Yeah.
Than if I keep one foot on the ground, right? So I much rather do do a hiking or something like that. Like go, hiking up where I just exert myself going up and down. I think that's also, they found that the going up and down is very, very helpful. The vertical change. Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me. I do the Nordic track, but I think still there, when I do the Nordic track, I got to be careful to make sure I stretch and like do some other things in my adductors so they don't get wimpy because it's not balanced. See, if you have to balance with your feet when you go running or when you go hiking or something like that, then you use all the muscles. It's much more natural. Or when you dance, it's much more natural that way than when you use a machine. It's the same with the free weights compared to the machine weights, I think.
Yeah. All
right. Any questions to that? That's all I have. Otherwise, look, you can see me here working on people. and then some. And then we'll start.